Now, there's something about this conjunction that occurred in 7 BC that sets it apart from the other ones, though. The conjunction that occurred in 7 BC was actually what's called a triple conjunction. Now, some people don't understand the term triple conjunction. They think that it means that there must be 3 things that join together in the sky. That's not what it means. A triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn happens like this. Jupiter's passing through the sky, minding its own business over the course of the year, and then Saturn comes and catches up with Jupiter, just as it normally does. But just at that moment, after Saturn catches up with Jupiter, it goes into retrograde motion. Remember that? So it begins to slow and go backwards. And so Jupiter is able to catch up with Saturn and overtake it. Well, then Saturn then kicks into high gear and moves back into its normal motion and catches up with Jupiter once more. So you can see Saturn comes, overtakes Jupiter, slows down, Jupiter comes and overtakes Saturn, and then Saturn speeds back up and overtakes Jupiter once more. That's a triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn overtakes Jupiter, Jupiter overtakes Saturn, and then finally Saturn overtakes Jupiter. So this is a very rare event because in order for this to happen, 2 infrequent events have to happen with perfect timing. Saturn's brief period of retrograde motion has to happen immediately after Saturn happens to pass Jupiter, or else it won't mesh, it won't align. So it's a very rare, a very significant event. Here are the times when this has happened in history before and after the birth of Yeshua. It happened once in 820 BC, which is what? That's around the time of maybe Elijah the prophet. It happened once in 146 to 145 BC. It happened in 7 BC. That's the one that we're looking at. And then the next one happened in 333 AD. All right, so I'm not going to go back to 7 BC, or negative 7. I have to go to negative 6. That's 7 BC, according to astronomers. And I'm going to go to May 14th. We'll go to about 3 a.m. Okay, so now you can see Jupiter and Saturn right there. Highlight Saturn again. Okay, you can see they're approaching each other in the sky. And as I progress through the days of the year, just take a look and see how Saturn comes and begins to catch up with Jupiter. You can go through. So Saturn has overtaken Jupiter, and you can watch as Saturn's movement begins to slow and Jupiter begins to take the lead. So go forward through the days, just like that. Now Jupiter takes the lead. All right, now I've got to move to a different time of the day so that we can see. So what I'm showing you is the same day, or the same time of day over on numerous days. So if you set up a camera on a tripod and took a picture at 3 a.m. every day, what the sky would look like. So that's why they seem to be moving like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to a different time of the day to bring them back into the middle of focus so we can watch that dance continue a little later. Okay, so now we'll continue to move forward through the days. So we should be able to see Saturn come and overtake Jupiter once more. And then Saturn and Jupiter, and then Mars comes. You can see Mars coming up from the bottom there, joins the party, and all three just kind of become subsumed by the sun's rays. Right? So that was the triple conjunction. Everybody catch that? We'll go over it a little bit more. So I'm going to take a look at it one more time. I'm going to go all the way back and show you the heliacal rise. Remember the heliacal rise? So we're going to go back to April. Go to April 1st, and we'll look at it about 5 in the morning. We can watch the sunrise because it's really close to the sun. So as now we're gonna just watch the sunrise on this day of April 1st, and you could see I'll back up again. You can see Jupiter just emerge out there, but it's too close to the sun to see it for very long, right? So if I move, maybe I'll move to a little later. We'll go to the 15th and we'll go go to a different time of the day. All right, so we'll go and watch. We'll see Saturn and Jupiter coming up just like that. We'll do that again. You can see. As the sun begins to rise, they emerge as twin morning stars right there. So if you were watching early in the morning, you could see them. And so they're beginning to move farther away from the sun, and you'll see that that's their heliacal rise at this time. Now, let's talk about the timing of these conjunctions. When did these happen? We saw that the timing for the Maccabees was significant. What about these ones? When did they happen? Now, measuring that, there's a couple of ways you can measure that, because a conjunction occurs when the two planets line up on an axis, but there's more than one way to measure the sky, which means that there is potentially more than one way to measure when it can. That would be the half. That would be another, according to the ecliptic, which makes the stars and everything like that. I had a different grid up. I had this equatorial grid, and so when I was looking at back to the heliacal rise, if you look at this through the, if we look at this according to the equatorial grid, it's very natural. It really it appears to make sense. It flows very well with our naked eye, and it's a natural way for the naked eye to measure. So here's an interesting thing then. With the equatorial grid as our frame of reference, we watch Saturn catch up with Jupiter. We watch Jupiter catch up with Saturn. I'm going backwards in time now. We'll go back through it again. So back to the heliacal rise is about back here. So then Jupiter. So Saturn comes and catches up with Jupiter. So let's find out when that happens according to the equatorial grid. Coming through here, we're in May, we're in June. Right around here, they kind of line up with each other. That's June 3rd. This is what the sky looked like if you were to go outside from Jerusalem and look at the sky on June 3rd in the year of 7 BC. Okay? Now, when was that? If we were to measure that on the Hebrew calendar, the first conjunction occurred in June 7 BC. That happened on the 6th day of the month of Sivan in the Hebrew calendar, in the year 3754. Now, the 6th of Sivan is a very significant event, a very significant day in the Jewish calendar. It is the holiday of Shavuot. This is what the sky looked like on Shavuot in 7 BC. This is also known as Pentecost. It's the Feast of Weeks, right? It's the beginning of the wheat harvest. This holiday is mentioned in Leviticus 23. According to Jewish tradition, it's the anniversary of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. And here I even have a picture of the actual 10 Commandments. This is a very important day, and that's the day when Jupiter and Saturn were aligned, just like this. So let's continue and look and see at the second conjunction, and that one happens to occur in September of 7 BC. And you kind of probably already know where I'm going with this, don't you? So here's August, and as we continue forward, and we're watching for Jupiter to catch up with Saturn, right? And we're now in September. All right, so we're looking at it. It's going forward. Jupiter's catching up with Saturn. Right here is September 24th of 7 BC. That day happens to be the first of Tishrei. That's on the Hebrew calendar. First of Tishrei is also known as Rosh Hashanah. Some Christians refer to it as the Feast of Trumpets. It's the Jewish New Year. It's the new year in the Jewish calendar. And this is what the sky looked like on Rosh Hashanah in 7 BC. Now, an interesting thing about the Jewish New Year, okay, it's mentioned in Leviticus 23, of course, as the day of trumpet blasts. It's associated in Jewish tradition with coronation of kings. It's associated with freedom. It's associated with redemption. So it's hard to even imagine, really, a more significant date for a conjunction like this to occur, announcing the birth of Messiah, than on Rosh Hashanah. Now, it's also noteworthy that this is a significant Babylonian holiday. Not just a Jewish holiday, it's a Babylonian holiday. Now, the Babylonians had 2 New Years. They had their main New Year in the spring, and they had a half New Year right here on the first of what they called Tashritu. They followed a very similar lunar calendar to what the Jewish people observed. So as the Magi were in Babylon looking out at the sky, they may have been celebrating their holiday of a half New Year as the sky looked just like this, right? So it really kind of an amazing coincidence that this is occurring. And there's our mascot for the celebration of Rosh Hashanah, blowing of the shofar. That's happens on this day, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the third conjunction and when this occurred. In the Julian calendar, it occurred in December of 7 BC. So we're going to move to, remember I have to move to a different time of the day. So I'm going to go now to December 1st. And we'll look at about we're going to look at about 5:30 p.m. Right. So we can see Jupiter and Saturn are pretty close to each other right now, but they're going to get even closer and line up as we move through. So first day of September or of December, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is the 16th of December. Saturn, you can see, has begun to pass Jupiter. And this happens to be right here. This is the day of the 25th of the Hebrew month of Kislev. 25th of Kislev is an important day on the Jewish calendar. It's also known as the first day of Hanukkah. So Hanukkah, as I mentioned to you, is the festival of the dedication of the temple. It's the day we were talking about the Maccabean revolt. It's the anniversary of that. So this conjunction is occurring. This is what it looked like, the sky looked like on the first day of Hanukkah. And you can see it's happening right in the southern sky, right, lined up with the southern sky. We're halfway in between, you could say, west and east. Okay, so let's back up a little bit to a little earlier and watch the sunset. So what's different, this is a little different from the other conjunctions. The other conjunctions, the sun would go down, it would become dark, and then the other conjunctions would rise in the east, and you'd see them coming up from the horizon. This one's not like that. The sun would go down, and the conjunction would already be in the sky by the time this happened. So let's watch as the sun goes down. I'll move forward and watch the sunset. All right, and you can see then Jupiter and Saturn emerge just like that at that time. Okay, so just imagine yourself being in, say, Bethlehem at this time. You're walking to Bethlehem from Jerusalem. You're heading south, and the sun is going down, and it's the 25th of Kislev. So what are you going to see in the homes of the Jewish people living in Bethlehem? In the windows, you're going to see people beginning to light their lamps, right? Because it's Hanukkah. Now, they didn't have quite have menorahs like we have them now. But they did have lamps that they would use. And so as the sun is going down, that's the perfect time for you to be lighting your Hanukkah lamps. And now we see these stars, or these planets, very near each other in the sky. So it's an amazing, amazing thing. You're traveling south in the direction of Jerusalem. So here we are. Hanukkah is the feast of festival of the dedication of the temple. The event appears in the southern sky, and it doesn't occur. You won't find it in the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament, but you will find this holiday mentioned in the New Testament in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 22, because it describes events that occurred after the Old Testament was written. Remember, it was in that 2nd century BC. So anyway, those are the three conjunctions, and I believe that based on numerous factors, that these were the astronomical events that led the Magi to Yeshua. Now, this is a image of a reconstruction, and this is not an actual artifact. But if there was such thing as a Hanukkah menorah that existed in the 1st century, it would have been something like this, where the oil wicks would be all kind of deriving from that one source like that. It's possible it could have had a menorah like that. All right, so let me just recap for you. An astrological sign makes sense because in light of what we know about Magi, what we know about ancient Jewish lore, an astrological answer makes a lot of sense. the cycle of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions, remember, is foundational to Persian astrology. So it's an important factor for us to be looking at. Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions coincided with major events in Jewish history. That's a very interesting coincidence, if you ask me. Including the Maccabean revolt and the Bar Kokhba revolt. Previous triple conjunctions seem to coincide with the births of the kings of the Jews. Seems to be another interesting coincidence. Not only that, but the conjunctions occurred on significant days on the Jewish calendar, as we saw them happening on Shavuot, and then on Rosh Hashanah, and then on Hanukkah, which to me, it seems like more than just coincidence.